A lone fighter is trying to stay sane while the world around him keeps twisting into monsters, visions, and red thorn-like horror. By chapter 20, the danger is no longer outside the walls, it is reaching every conversation, every refuge, and every battlefield. Spoiler warning for chapters 11 through 20 of this Chinese manhwa. The premise follows a world where madness or supernatural abuse of power seems to be spreading through people and places, while a small number of characters still try to resist, investigate, and survive. These chapters continue after the early setup and show the crisis widening. Authority figures discuss warnings, young fighters face beasts and strange energies, and the red, root-like force becomes harder to ignore. Chapter 11 shifts the story into a more official and uneasy space. A dark-haired man speaks indoors, and the framing makes it feel like he is reporting something important rather than having an ordinary conversation. The focus then moves to a stern older figure, likely the dean, whose presence carries real authority. A blonde young woman becomes central to the tension, reacting strongly as the discussion turns ominous. The clearest emotional image is a red-backed vision or memory of a small figure facing a huge shadowy presence. The chapter does not explain whether this is a warning, a flashback, or symbolic dread, but it proves the threat is much bigger than one incident. By the end, conversations continue inside and outside, leaving the cast with knowledge, fear, and no clean solution. Chapter 12 takes the fear from the dean's room and moves it toward open danger. A blue-tone sequence follows a young man and a dark-haired woman near a waterside setting, where their conversation seems tied to older events or hidden warnings. A golden eye-like image appears, surrounded by flashback-style panels, giving the chapter a supernatural pressure even before the violence starts. The mood then turns more serious as the young man and woman keep talking near an interior or wall-like space, while a glowing spirit-like effect appears near seated figures. Then the night breaks apart. Something crashes or attacks, a young woman reacts in fear, and the chapter ends on a large golden beast-like creature. The warning has become a physical threat, forcing everyone from explanation into survival. Chapter 13 opens with a red demonic-looking presence, immediately making the danger feel close and aggressive. The scene shifts into a cold blue night, where a dark-haired young man and his companions move through the area under pressure. They appear to talk while traveling, gathering near green-blue light in what may be a forest, cave, or spirit-lit path. Their body language suggests caution, but the chapter refuses to let caution become safety. An orange-red flame or explosion suddenly appears near the group, turning their movement into an ambush or battle. Fire, blue energy, projectiles, and impact flashes fill the dark setting as the group tries to survive the chaos. Even after the clash, a huge shadowy or horned figure appears, meaning running has only carried them into the next danger. Chapter 14 pulls the cast back into blue-lit rooms, where the danger feels quieter but not weaker. A young man and young woman speak with companions inside a dormitory or academy-like building, and the group seems to be discussing what just happened or what they should do next. A strange red-orange glow appears near the young man, drawing everyone's attention and pushing the scene from conversation into investigation. The chapter includes a brief domestic calm, even showing food, which makes the next turn feel more disturbing. A dark silhouette appears against a pink background, and the group seems to move through corridors or night spaces toward the source of trouble. By the end, a red thorn-like bloody mass erupts in a large interior area, shocking the observers and proving the threat can grow inside their supposed shelter. Chapter 15 builds its entire pressure around eyes, visions, and a strange force that may be connected to perception. It begins with ominous eye imagery, including a dark shape against red and a purple eye-like image, before shifting into a blue-toned room or cave. A black-haired young man and a purple-haired young woman speak with others, and the repeated focus on their reactions makes the discussion feel urgent. Red ribbon-like or serpent-like energy appears near the group, while another woman is shown sitting or lying in the blue-lit space. A red-haired or pink-haired figure and a pale figure also appear during the gathering, suggesting multiple witnesses or affected people. The key visual is the glowing blue-green eye, which hints at a vision or awakening. By the end, blue force surges, and the group faces another dangerous manifestation. Chapter 16 moves the conflict into a cold blue winter setting. A pale-haired or blue-haired young cultivator appears in snowy or icy surroundings, with a distant building or enclosed area grounding the scene. He speaks with another pale-haired figure, though the exact relationship is unclear, and the chapter title suggests there may still be optimism despite everything happening around them. That hope is quickly tested. Blue spiritual or ice-like power gathers, and then a darker red and black presence interrupts the cold atmosphere. The young fighter reacts as the hostile force closes in, and the confrontation erupts into a violent exchange. Blue energy strikes through the scene, clashing against dark or red power while explosions spread across the snowy landscape. The chapter ends without a clear resolution, showing that optimism alone cannot hold back the abuse of power. Chapter 17 acts like the breath before another heavy clash, but it is not calm. It opens with fiery or lava-like imagery, then moves through icy, blue, and nighttime environments as a young male lead crosses between danger and discussion. Several characters gather in blue-lit spaces, likely trying to plan, understand the threat, or prepare for what comes next. Warmer scenes show a small group resting, eating, or handling supplies, reminding us that these characters are still human even when the world around them feels monstrous. The dark-haired character appears in repeated close-ups during dialogue-heavy moments, suggesting he is central to the next decision. Later, tense exchanges near a darker outdoor or forest-like setting keep the mood unstable. The chapter ends not with victory, but with preparation still unfinished and danger waiting just ahead. Chapter 18 throws the story into a fast, violent battle in a blue-lit cavern or underwater-like space. A black-haired fighter stands against a hostile purple-faced being that looks horned, masked, or creature-like. The creature reacts with shock or rage, and the fight immediately becomes chaotic. Red blood-like projectiles or tendrils cut through the blue battlefield while the fighter dodges, falls, or gets knocked through the air. A dark-cloaked figure appears nearby, watching or speaking as the red tendrils spread, which makes the fight feel connected to a larger design rather than a random monster encounter. A pale humanoid body or summon shape appears suspended as the red force intensifies. Then blue energy erupts around the purple creature. The chapter ends in a dense clash of red tendrils, blue lightning-like power, and unresolved combat. Chapter 19 keeps the pressure on by following a blue-haired young man through a dark blue environment while a blonde woman appears in a separate explanatory or reactive scene. She seems calmer than the surrounding chaos, which suggests some characters may understand pieces of the crisis even if they cannot stop it. Then the setting turns ominous as red light and shadow spread across a large space. A frightened face reacts as tendrils or spikes begin to erupt, and a massive organic-looking red formation expands like roots, blood, or a monster's body. Several people are shown near the growth, alarmed or caught in the danger. A dark-haired woman and another figure face the scene, while more people gather in a dim room. A bright blast or release leaves survivors shaken, but the outcome remains uncertain. Chapter 20 opens with a blue-toned dark-haired figure reacting to the violent supernatural presence as red, root-like tendrils spread through a blue battlefield. A small figure stands alone against the blue before the red mass takes over the space, making the threat feel both huge and isolating. The chapter then cuts to a quieter night exterior near buildings and trees, where a white-clad adult or senior figure speaks with others. A small dark-haired girl with horn-like accessories or ribbons appears among the group, and the conversation seems to involve warning or explanation. That quiet meeting matters because it shows people still trying to reason through the crisis. But the story returns to the spreading tendrils, now more aggressive, with a purple-blue creature-like force or armored figure near the red growths. The chapter ends in alarm, with the threat still expanding. This 10-chapter stretch turns the manhwa from mystery into escalation. The cast keeps trying to respond with structure, reports, meetings, explanations, investigation, preparation, and direct combat. But the supernatural threat keeps breaking those structures apart. Red imagery marks eruption, abuse of power, blood-like growth, or monstrous energy, while blue imagery often frames cold resistance, spiritual force, or the spaces where the characters try to survive. The most interesting part is that the enemy is not just one beast. It appears through visions, eyes, thorns, creatures, and distorted spaces. By chapter 20, the question is no longer whether the madness is real. The question is whether anyone understands it well enough to stop it before every safe place becomes another battlefield. That is the recap for chapters 11 through 20. Subscribe for the next part, where we continue from this Red Thorn crisis and see whether the survivors can finally turn fear into a counterattack.